Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Oh boy, am I excited for this. Recently, I've taken it upon myself to make a Pokemon region where both the region itself and the Pokemon within it are based on a specific place. This is how the mainline games and most fan-made regions operate, so I thought I'd take a stab at it. This is the Doitsun region. All the Pokemon within it and the region itself primarily is based on Germany, but the map itself also contains aspects from Austria and Denmark. Doitsu is a Japanese translation of Germany, although when I first looked it up it said Doitsun with an N. That's the real reason why it's not just Doitsu, but I guess it differentiates the name of the region from the actual name. Anyways, aside from the legendaries, the starters should be the most fitting of the region. Very proud of them, they're surprisingly deep. So, the starters are Blued, Kinsel, and Rozo. But do you notice something? The colors. To pop out as their type, most grass starters are green, most water starters are blue, and fire starters are some warm colors, so red, orange, or yellow. Those that don't have those colors have them as accents, such as Chespin, Scorbunny, and Quaxley, to name some examples. Well, the unorthodox colors are because this isn't actually a grass, fire, water trio, it's actually fighting, rock, and flying. I chose this triangle because the other three perfect type triangles use types from the main starter triangle or are that triangle. They all have an ability akin to Steelworker that gives them stab for the type in the original triangle they best fit. With all these details out of the way, let's get into all of their inspirations. Our fighting type starter, Blued, is up first. It is a cornflower, which is the national flower of Germany, except it isn't. Well, we aren't exactly sure what to classify it as. Most people say it's from an ancient octopus that evolved to get a more plant-shaped body and live on land. Its anthers are said to be the tentacles. It's just a chill little guy. A blue dude. A Blued. It has the ability Mask Roots, which gives it stab for grass-type moves. After all, it'll make a more convincing grass type if it can effectively use their moves. The fighting type might not make much sense yet, but it will later. It also helps with catching prey after luring them in, since the main Pokemon that try to eat them are ones like Stantler and Sawsbuck, who are weak to fighting. Next up, Kinsel. Did you know that there are over 20,000 castles in Germany? I don't know if that's physically possible. So there definitely has to be a Pokemon related to castles. Since these castles are made out of wet else rocks, let's make a starter based on them. Kinsel is a castle crossed with a furnace, since I associate furnaces with factories, which Germany has a lot of. It has fiery insides, which is also the name of its ability, gives a fire stab, that can spew out high temperature blasts. The name comes from Kindle and Castle. It gets all its power from mountains of coal stored inside itself. In later stages, it could even turn plants directly into new coal to re-energize itself. This is a pretty simple one, and spoilers, the whole line is too. Lastly, for the base forms, it's Rozo. This one has a lot more to dissect than you may think. The name is simple first of all. It's a bozo, and at its core, there is a roe, or fish egg. This is no ordinary roe, however. It's a prehistoric trout encased in amber. It's being preserved by the massive amount of heat it has stored up. It's a hybrid between a trout and a mallard, two common animals in Germany. Most people believe the trout part used to be a fossil Pokemon before escaping and spreading. They got to gain the mallard part by bathing on the bottom of rivers. However, besides this, they hardly go in the water. Still, this gives them and their line a sort of damp aura, which gives them stab for water moves. Now, how about we evolve all of them at once? The middle stages are admittedly not the most exciting, but I tried. By the way, they all evolve at the same time. Level 15. Boom. Meet Anthax, Ferntress, and Mallard Mix. Now, let's go over them individually. Anthax is first up. It easily adds the most new inspirations to its design. First of all, Anthrax. It makes your body unable to respond to illnesses correctly and slowly kills you too. It is said that a sharp blow from this Pokemon gives similar effects, hence its evolution signature move that we'll get to later. Not only Anthrax, but this Pokemon also references a specific person. His name was Max Schmeling, and he was a German boxer, so there's the fighting type. He even had a movie made about him with the most eye-catching ratings I've ever seen. Also, the name also pulls from Anther, since theirs is ginormous. Furnace up next. It's a Furnace Fortress. It has 2 towers now. They're actually hollow at the bottom, and it can put berries in there to toast them. Or it could always just trap a Pokemon in there. It appears to be a factory in the midst of an accident. Maybe one of their furnaces exploded. They can use the smoke to attract bugs, which they will then proceed to fry and chomp down on. For those that travel in packs, they will often share their meals. Mallard Mix is our last one, and it's probably the weirdest. It now mostly resembles a mallard, but with its torso being a trout. Mallard makes steer clear of watery areas, because the mallard half wants to eat fish, while the trout part doesn't for obvious reasons. Strangely, they both control different parts of the body. The mallard half controls movements, and the trout controls blood flow. Unfortunately, they've been getting poached as of late. People will take them, put them in their vehicles, and drive off to unknown places. We shudder to think of what people are doing to them. Finally, the fully evolved starters. At level 34, your partners will reach their most powerful stages. And here they are. Corn Power, Heidelburn, and Trout Titan. Let's talk about them now, shall we? Corn Power is honestly a pretty stupid name. It's pretending to be a cornflower, and it has a lot of power. But I'm fairly proud of everything else. The darker parts of its torso resemble a tank top, and it now has boxing gloves. And going back to the tank top, you know what else Max Schmeling did? He served in the military during World War II, on the side of the Germans. Just try to ignore that. I think England gave him a pass or something. And you know what was on the battlefield? Tanks. And you know what specifically he did? He was a paratrooper. He was on top of the battlefield. Top. Tank top. I don't know if that's the most clever or stupidest thing I've ever said. Going back to their octopus origins, any water they spat out is poisonous. This leads well into their signature move, Anthrax Attacks. God, that's dumb. A pretty good fighting move that guarantees poison. It probably has base 80 or 90 power. Moving on to Heidelburn. Surprise, surprise, the line was based on a specific castle this entire time. The Heidelberg. The name just adds on burn because of its fire stab. Speaking of burn, let's talk about its signature move, Calamity. It's a rock-type move with 80 or 90 base power that guarantees a burn. Considering this Pokemon's bulk, lowering physical attacks will be devastating. Going more specific with the design, it's what would happen if you took this middle piece and made it look more generic. The one big tower is filled with, oddly enough, plant life. Plenty of moss and vines grow at alarming speeds to make its fire attacks more powerful. This is a detail made because of the plant life seen growing on the Heidelberg Castle. Now, our final Pokemon of the video is this incredible freak of nature. Trout Titan has a simple name like the rest. It's a Trout Titan. It seems now the Trout half is full in control again. The Mallard half being below it, firing off ranged wind and water attacks. It is incredibly fast. It will rapidly spin to make cyclones so fast the opponent can hardly move. Thus, its signature move is Conflicting Winds. It's an 80 or 90 power flying move that guarantees paralysis. They strangely have an internal heat that isn't quite on the level as a lot of fire types, but is more than the average non-fire type Pokemon. This is converted into energy, which they have a lot of. They essentially have ADHD. They've been known to get into dogfights with other strong aerial Pokemon just for fun. Dogfights is in the close quarters aerial combat, not fighting dogs. Now, before we go, I have some other things I'd like to discuss about all three of them. You may have noticed that each of them have aspects of another type. The Corn Power line evolved from Octopus and shares a lot of their traits. The Heidelberg line uses coal made from plants, and Heidelberg himself has moss and vines inside of his tower. The Trout Titan line has a high body temperature and lots of stored heat. Yeah, it's another reference to the original starter triangle, just for fun. Finally, I'd like to mention their battle styles. Heidelburn is a solid wall with hardly any speed to speak of. Trout Titan is a glass cannon with lower defenses than its previous stage. Finally, Corn Power, despite having a higher attack stat than Trout Titan, does not match the bulk of Heidelburn, nor the speed of Trout Titan. So, these are the starters of Doitsun. Pretty proud of them. Which would you pick? Which one to start your journey? Your journey through my Germany-inspired Pokemon region, the Doitsun region. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it all to the way to the end, maybe you should consider subscribing. I have much more planned, and I already have a full dex just waiting to be shown. With all that being said, I'm Hollowed Skies, goodbye!